Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we'll be learning how to draft the half length block. This is our tape rule, our ruler, our armhole curve that will be used to draw our armhole, and then we have our pencil. So the first thing we need to do is take our body measurement for the half length. I'm writing down the measurements for this particular one. In case you missed my previous video on how to take accurate body measurements, I'll drop the link in the description box. Then we go ahead to rule our borderline, which is ½ inch away from the upper part of the paper, just like I'm doing, and then you rule a straight line down just like this. We rule our borderline is ½ inch away from the upper part of the paper. Then we input our shoulder to nipple measurements, just like I'm doing. Our shoulder to nipple for this particular tutorial is 9 inches. You rule a straight line like that, and then we input our half length. For the front we have 14 inches, which is what I'm doing right now, and then we rule a straight line just like this. So the next thing we do is input our shoulder measurements and our armhole depth, just like this. Our armhole depth is where we have our chest line, so we plot our shoulder and the chest line just like this. Now we move on to label the lines. We have the chest line, the bust line, which is shoulder to nipple, and the waist line, which is also called the half length. So we put our dart point, which is our nipple to nipple, and you rule a straight line. The dart is usually 1 inch below the bust point, and then we go in by ½ inch on both sides, and we plot our darts just like this. We are still at the front bodies. We have plotted the dart. Now you go ahead to put your bust measurements and your waist measurements. For the waist, we return the 1 inch that the dart has taken up, and we connect like this. So for the armhole, you check the midpoint of our armhole. You check the midpoint and you go in by 0.5 or 0.75 of an inch, and we plot our armhole just like this. So the next thing we do is put our basic neckline of 3 by 3 inches, and then we put in our shoulder slope. We go in by 1 inch from the top of the paper. This is because the shoulder is not straight. Now we move to the back. The half length of the back is 13 inches, and that is what we are doing right now, 13 inches. Now you rule a straight line to connect just like this, and then we move ahead to our zip allowance. If you notice that this is a bit slant, this is because even the back of a human body is not completely straight, so we put a little slant, just very little like this, and we have our zip allowance. Then we input our shoulder to nipple measurements, which is also called the bust line, just like this, and you rule your straight line. You also put your shoulder measurements. That's the shoulder measurement at the back, and our armhole depth like this. So we input our shoulder measurements like this. We also input our dart points at the back, and we rule a straight line like this. The dart for the back is 1 inch above the chest line, and we also plot it like this, ½ inch on both sides just like this. Then we go ahead and input our bust measurement, but the dart has taken up some space, so you measure what it is and you return it back. And we also do the same for the waist. You measure your 1 inch that the dart has taken and you return it back, and we connect our lines just like this. So we go ahead and input our armhole just as we have done now. Then we go ahead and put our neckline. For this particular one, I'm using 3 inches by 1 inch, and then we connect our neckline just like this. Then we go ahead to input our shoulder slope 1 inch from the top of the paper. just like so. We input our seam allowance of 1/2 inch at the down part of the pattern, both for the front and the back, just like we are doing now. 1/2 inch seam allowance for the front and the back, just like this. Now we notice that our half length for the front and the back, they are different. A difference of 1 inch is there, so we go ahead and input that 1 inch after the bust line at the front. That difference is converted into a dot, just like this, and that dot is named the side dot or the bust dot, just as we have seen. But we don't necessarily have to see the dot in our clothes, so we go ahead and we transfer it to another part of the clothes, just as I folded it. So we cut out our pattern, just like I'm doing. We cut out our pattern, just like this. Now that we have cut out the pattern, there is a rule in pattern drafting that says for every dart that is closed, another one is opened. So for us to close our bust dart, we have to open the waist dart. Hence, that bust dart is transferred to the waist, just like this. Then we go ahead and cut out the neckline and the shoulder slope, like this. Then we cut out the back pattern as well. We cut out the back pattern, the side, the armhole, the shoulder slope, like this, and then the neck. Just like this. I forgot to label my zipper allowance earlier, so I'm doing that right now. That's the zipper allowance right there. And I will be folding it just for us to be sure to be able to identify it as the zipper allowance. Placing the pattern side by side, we realize that they have been able to align. This is because of the dart that was there, that was transferred. So we have come to the end of the tutorial for today. I'll see you all in the next tutorial. Bye.